Hello, welcome to our flight simulator tutorial on the E6B flight computer. Now, despite it having the word computer in the title, this isn't a digital computer, it is more of a slide rule. But these things are still used in real world flights today. Generally on small aircraft, light aircraft using visual flight rules, but that's not to say that they're not used in instrument flight rules as well. Now, I'd just like to reiterate that the tutorial you're going to see is really for flight simulator use only, and that's really because I don't want to be responsible for anybody getting lost or using this incorrectly in the real world. I don't think I'm qualified to be able to teach you how to be using this in the real world, but what I'm going to be telling you will be good enough for using it in flight simulator. So what can this flight computer do for us? Well, it can do lots and lots of different computations, far more than we can put in one single video. So we're just going to concentrate on one single computation that it can do for us in this video, which will be calculating our ground speed and our true heading based on what the wind direction and wind speed currently is. So without further ado, let's have a look at some examples. So here we are with an example. This is one leg of an entire flight plan. I've downloaded this from SkyVector, and it's got 4 bits of information here which should be readily available to us in our simulated or even real world aircraft. We know the wind speed and the wind direction. The wind direction is 270 degrees and it's 16 knots. Now, we should be able to get that from any weather reports that we got before we took off, but also from automatic weather services as well. We should also know our true airspeed. That's 140 knots. That should be from the dials in front of us, as long as the track as well. So that's the track heading that we're on, which in this case is 330 degrees. So with these 4 bits of information, we should be able to put those into our flight computer, and we'll be able to work out our true heading and our ground speed, because obviously our wind direction and speed is blowing us off that heading, and it's probably blowing against us as well, which is slowing us down, or may even be blowing behind us and speeding us up. So let's see how we can work that out. So the first thing we're going to do is take our flight computer and turn it onto the back. That's where it's got all the computations for wind speeds. So first thing we're going to do is put in our wind component. So what we want to do first is put our wind heading in. Now we know that we got that from our previous data, so we can dial in onto this center wheel here, 270, because that was the wind direction. We just put that to the top arrow index. Next, we want to put in the speed component. Now that is done by this center dot here. The center of the wheel, we've got a little hole. So we put that hole on the wind speed, which was 16 knots. There. Next, what we do is we take a pencil and we put a little dot over the top of the graph there. Okay. Then we want to dial in our actual aircraft's track heading. That was 333 degrees. And once we turn the inner wheel to 333 degrees, our true track heading, then we can see that the dot that we drew here will move, and it's now located here. The next part that we want to do is push the entire wheel up the graph until this dot reaches our true indicated airspeed. So we're moving the entire graph upwards. So once we've moved the entire wheel upwards and we make that dot stop on our actual indicated airspeed, which in this case was 140 knots, and there it is. So we can see as we've moved that up, our center pip there has actually moved up with us, and that we can read off as our actual ground speed. So that is on 132, so our ground speed is 132 knots. So that's one thing that we've actually been able to work out. Now, the difference between this centre line, which is our heading, and this dot, which is our wind speed component, in this case is that, which is just 6 degrees. So we want to take that away from our actual track heading. If it was on this side, so you can see we're actually drifting to port. If it was drifting to starboard, we'd add it to our current track heading, but because it's port, we're going to take it away. So our track heading was 330 degrees. Take away those 6 degrees, that means our true heading is actually 327 degrees. So, was the information that we got from the flight computer correct? Well, here we are back at the leg information from SkyVector, and let's reveal what SkyVector thought it was going to be. And yes, our true heading was 327 degrees and our ground speed is 132 knots, so exactly the same as what we got from the flight computer. Now the big question is, do you have to use one of these? Well, of course you don't. It's simulated flight, and even so, if you did want to find out anything like this, you can just use SkyVector or any other online calculation just to get that for you if you need it. Most people just go out there, just put the autopilot on and come back when it's time to land, but using one of these, hand fly the aircraft, it adds another dimension, a little bit of realism, a little bit of interest to the simulation. The choice is yours whether you want to do it either way, but for the cost of one of these, like I say, you can pick them up second hand for a couple of pounds off eBay. Why not give it a go? Usually comes with a manual, so you don't have to listen to me giving you all the instructions. You can read up yourself if you need to. But as long as you're enjoying yourself doing your simulation, that's the main thing. Thanks for watching.